Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host. And this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. And there, since this is February, with Valentine's Day fast approaching, and by this time I might actually be here. I don't know, by the time this is uploaded. Not quite. But, so, I have been looking at some 50s romance comics. And this time, I want to take a look at Love Romances, number 58 from 1956 from Atlas Comics. And of course, Atlas is the precursor to Marvel Comics. And this title, romance title, it began as ideal for issues 1 through 5, and in 49. This title changed to Love Romances. And it ran from ran to 1963, totaling 106 issues. And it featured stories written by Hank Chapman, among others, with such artists as J. Scott Pike, Larry Lieber, Don Heck, Vince Colletta, and many others. And at least one female, Ann Brewster, unless that's just a pseudonym for a man, as was not uncommon. And of course, these stories are the epitome of 50s kitsch. You know, really reflecting the times, not being very progressive, you know, where girls were supposed to get married shortly after high school, or 1 or 2 years of college, if that, even that, and then start pumping out babies, or occasionally working for a few years, what have you. Is largely the way the world was viewed in the 50s, among other things. These, of course, well, there are lots of other things going on in the 50s, which we won't talk about here. But Love Romances. This is a really nice cover illustration, and the cover itself it's got a tear up here, which is fine. But look how this is 56, so this is not too long into the age of the Comics Code. And again, look how huge that Comics Code stamp is on there. This is I knew that someday I'd find my type of guy. All brand new romances. This is my beloved. Ooh, yeah. And then our first story we're going to look at is This Is My Beloved. And looky here who is drawing it. Yes, our artist is Vince Colletta. Now, over time, Vince Colletta has gotten a lot of crap. Some of it definitely justified, because he spent a good portion of his career as primarily an inker, and he was fast, and so he could do a lot of work as an inker, and he did a lot for Marvel and DC through the 60s and 70s, and he got a lot of crap because he had a tendency to stiffen someone else's pencils, sometimes erase a lot of the background so he wouldn't have as much work to do, etc. And it's on some of Kirby's stuff that he really gets a lot of guff. And like I said, a lot of that is justified. But he was good, and he did especially did a lot like on Wonder Woman or other stories with a lot of or main female characters, because he could take someone else's pencils and make the female characters very lovely. Just often a big improvement over the original pencils on those female characters. So that is why, one of the reasons why I have said many times that Vince Colletta's best work has always been in the romance comics. That's where his talent lies. Was in the romance comics, and you can really see it here, even though it's not as, it's an earlier version of his style, but he's quite clearly recognizable. And of course, he was good at making really handsome looking young men. So this is My Beloved, and this is this young lady. She's she and her high school sweetheart. They're just graduating high school, and she is about to go off to college somewhere else, but he is staying home, staying there, and just talking with the girls and stuff. So, and they're having to dance, and they're and all the girls are saying stuff like, "Oh, but you'll feel differently about him when you leave, because they're really in love, because you'll be meeting all these other guys and stuff like that." And she said, "No, I love him. I'll be coming back to him, but I'm going off to school." And said, "Every guy here is jealous of me, and you ought to hear the girls talking all this other stuff." So here, this is when she finds out that they're going to have to leave, and she goes. So she tells him she's leaving. But she'll be coming back to him, and she has to go off to school. Her family's moving away, and while here she is at school, she meets another fellow, and they start seeing one another. But it's not in a romantic sense. It's just as friends. They do stuff together as friends, just having a good time. But when he confesses his love for her, she says, "I'm sorry, I can't." And but they do continue seeing one another until he finally kisses her, and consent at all. Anyway, and she says, "I'm sorry, I can't." And see here, you can really see how there's nice draftsmanship. And here, in her face right there, you can just see how nicely drawn that is. So she goes home, tells her mother, and she's goes back to town, to her hometown, to see her old beau, and see how she feels about things. And she gets there. Oh, she leaps into his arms, and yes, it is you that I still love. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And they smoochy, and then they're going to get married. And to heck with school. And here we go, with breakup. Oh, this is different. And again, these just did not give credit, so I have no idea who wrote anything. And if the artists didn't sign their work, there's no way for me to tell. But this is familiar. The style is familiar, but some lovely draftsmanship. This face here makes me think of Ogden Whitney, but the style of inking is different. So I don't think so, but it's just really nice. And here's this girl. She's just recently broken up, and she is kind of walking through the park and jealous when she sees lovers walking down the lanes and stuff, and remembering the fellow that she was with. But then they broke up, and he broke her heart, and she is not interested in getting together with someone else. But her sister or friend or whatever talks her into going out with this fellow. So she goes out, and here again you see some really, both in there and in here, some really, really nice work. Both the backgrounds and the figures, the composition, within the panels. It's just beautiful draftsmanship, far superior to a lot of the other stuff that you were seeing out there, because a lot of the best draftsmen at that time were doing this kind of stuff because they could do it so well. That's not to diminish the quality of some of the other artists working out there. So here she is, and she's seeing this fella, and they start to get a little bit lovey-dovey, and she backs off. No, because she's afraid of getting too close and having her heart broken again. Oh, and her sister's talking to her. And I'm going for a walk. I broke up with what's his name because I can't go through that ordeal again. And she's walking, and then he appears. Stella. Streetcar named Desire, I know. And there he is. Oh, and yes, she has to admit, yes, she does love him, and he wants to marry her. And oh, lovey-dovey. And they're great draftsmanship on there. And here we have a little comic-style ad over here for a mini. It's a play on the Making a Man Out of Joe with ads. How Mini Jim turns dateless Dorothy into dazzling Dottie. So she gets this little gizmo. It's a mini Jim, so she works out and improves her figure. Now, Too Good for Me. Here we got some more really, and I don't know who this artist is. Really beautiful. I just open these pages up, and you're just blown away by this draftsmanship. And I think I know who it is, but because I recognize the style, but I can't put a name to it. And I'm thinking, Pulps, could it be? I can't even think of his name right now. The one I'm thinking of, who did a lot. I even did a whole episode on his work, and I cannot think of it because he mostly did science fiction and pulp illustration, stuff like that. If that's who it is, and I can't think of his name. And but here they are. In the office, the lady is secretary for her boss, and it's saying how she has been in love with him. His name is Bob, but just working for him. Then one day he asks her out, so on Saturday night. So they do. They go out and they have a good time and then they keep seeing one another. Sexual harassment, possibly here. And but she was gung ho for it as well. And again, just this beautiful draftsmanship. And they're going out, and then he admits that he loves her, and she admits that she's been in love with him, but they can't work. They're from two different worlds. I'm just a working girl, and you're rich, and all this other stuff, yada yada yada. So she goes home, and then she's back at work on Monday, and then she says she's going to quit. Says, okay, but first let me take you to lunch, and then he's going to someplace where they've never been before, and his fancy car, driving through parts of town, the slums and where the poor folks live. Said, this is where I grew up. I know what it's like to be poor, and a working stiff. I might have money now, but I grew up poor, and I worked for all the money I got. Oh, okay. So we are on the same page, and then there they are getting married. WW, some beautiful stuff. And here's some other, not quite as lovely, but this is art by Ann Brewster, unless it's a fake name. Lover Come Back. Oh, this is the sailor and his girl are kissing. He's about to ship out, and he says, "This is the last kiss I'll have until I come back for you." And he's about to go to sea or whatever. And she says, I won't kiss anybody else, and don't you either, and because I'll be back for you. Must be summer because he's wearing his whites, and it looks like from the patch on his shoulder, looks like he is a third-class gunner's mate. So Then off he goes. Then her mother tells her, said, "You've got to forget about him, because he's going away, going to sea, and he's going to be all over, and he's going to meet all these girls. So you should start dating other guys." And here's the guy that she knows, and he's asking her out, and she says, "No, I can't, because I've got to wait for Charlie," or whatever his name is, and. But then she's kind of jealous when she sees everyone, paired off. And, "Oh, any male mother?" Said, "No, nothing from," what's his name? "No, nothing, Ken." That's his name, Ken. And then, and she's talking, "You got to let him go." And then, ding dong, while she's mooning over a picture of him, there he is. He walks in. He says, "I'm back, and I'm back for you. I had to wait until I got stationed at a base that had married enlisted housing. So now we can get married and go off together. Oh, lovey-dovey, lovey-dovey. Ooh, ooh, ooh." Well, I was in the Navy, and it was hard for young enlisted guys, married young enlisted guys, even though I was never one, to get housing, because you got to wait sometimes years for base housing to open up. Which is odd, because it's tougher for the junior housing is tougher for the married junior enlisted guys than it is for the old enlisted guys, because they get first bids on the base housing, and the guys who can least afford it are the ones forced out into to get their own housing. And my type of guy, this is the one from the title. This girl, she's going out with this guy. He's good and steady, but he's dependable, but it's not very exciting. And she's kind of complaining about that. Then she says, "Well, this guy here is kind of what I think of as a handsome knight," and he happens to know him. And he joins him at the table, and then he's dancing with her, and he finds out because he's exciting and thrilling, and he does all kinds of wild and woolly things, and everything's not planned out, and he's not as dependable, and he's got a string of broken hearts behind him. So they're dancing, and she starts seeing him, Ken, until she admits her love to him and asking when is he going to ask her to marry him, and he goes, I have no intention. I can't get tied down." Said, "And I've said I love him to a dozen. I love you to a dozen girls." And now she's heartbroken, and he takes her home, and she's bawling. Then her old boyfriend, he shows up, because her this guy Ken says, "You need to go back to what's his name, because he's solid, good, and dependable." And they're all solid, good and dependable. He shows right up there, and he says, "I'm sorry." She says, "I'm sorry. I can't. Even though he's breaking my heart, I can't come back to you after having loved him. I can't love you. I'm sorry. You're such a sweet guy." But then he admits it was all a trick. He was a friend. This guy Ken is nothing like that. And then he admits it. I was trying to help out a friend for you to realize how good he is, but you fell in love with me, and I fell in love with you, and yada yada yada, lovey, and says, I'm happy for you. Go ahead. Even though I love you, go ahead, because I am happy that you're happy." And there it is, all lovey-dovey. And that's what we got this time. Love Romances, number 58, 1956. And I've talked way too long. So I want to thank you all for joining me. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you have friends who love romance comics, or just romance stories at all, share this with them. They might like it. And do leave a comment to tell me what you thought of these things, or some of this artwork. Let me know in the comments below. And remember, comics are art.